My name is Jody Bird. I'm 31 years old. 6 hours after giving birth, my sister ripped my newborn son from my arms and hissed, "This baby isn't yours anymore, Jody. You never deserved to be a mother. We're taking him home." The nurse was already wheeling his bassinet toward the door. I couldn't move my legs. I couldn't even speak. But I could see my own mother sitting in the corner, arms crossed, refusing to look at me. That's when my husband's lawyer stormed into the room, blocked the bassinet, and said coldly, "Stop. Before you take him anywhere, read the name listed as father on page 1. My sister didn't flinch. She already knew what she had written. What none of them knew was that I had already started counting every single one of their lies, and the first truth I uncovered would destroy them all. Before I go on, if this story already hits too close to home, if you've ever been the good daughter who got punished for trying to build a life of your own, take a second to like and subscribe. Drop your location and the exact time where you're listening from in the comments. I read every single one. To understand how I ended up in that hospital bed, I need to take you back. Not to the beginning of this story, to the beginning of who I was inside my family. Growing up in Nashville, I was the easy one. That's what my mother Christine always called me. Not the smart one, not the brave one. Easy. As in, doesn't cry, doesn't complain, doesn't cost much. My older sister Kylie was the other one. The one who needed. Needed attention. Needed reassurance. Needed someone to drop everything and come running at any hour for any reason, without question. When our parents divorced, I was 8. Kylie was 12. My mother made a decision that shaped the next 23 years. She decided Kylie took it harder. So Kylie got the therapy sessions, the long talks at the kitchen table, the extra 15 minutes of hugging before bed. I got a pat on the head and, "You're fine, Jody. You're always fine." My 16th birthday fell on a Thursday. I remember because my mother had promised to bring home a cake from the bakery on West End. The one with the lemon frosting I loved. When I got home from school, the kitchen was dark. No cake, no candles, no note. At 7 o'clock, my mother walked in carrying Kylie's dry cleaning and a folder of college brochures. She looked at me at the kitchen table and her face changed. "Oh, honey, I'm sorry, your sister's campus visit was today, and She ran out at 9 to a grocery store and came back with a sheet cake that said, "Happy Birthday" in blue gel frosting. She'd bought it from the clearance rack. Somebody else's name had been scraped off. I ate 2 slices. I said thank you. I went to bed. That's how I learned my position. I was the one who didn't need. If I did need, if I ever had the nerve to need, I was taking something away from Kylie. And taking from Kylie was the worst thing a person could do in our house because Kylie was already in pain. Kylie was always already in pain. So I stopped needing. I paid my own way through nursing school with 2 part-time jobs, bought my own car at 19, found my own apartment at 22, got hired in the emergency room at Vanderbilt and worked double shifts until I could afford things without asking anyone for anything. I built a life from scratch because I'd been trained to believe no one would build one for me. And the twisted part? I was proud of that. I thought independence was the same thing as strength. I didn't realize until much later that what I actually learned was how to make it easy for people to forget me. The first time Kylie asked me for money, I'd been out of nursing school for 3 years. She called at 11 at night, voice shaking. She and Tyler had been trying to get pregnant for 2 years. Temperature charts, ovulation kits, timed intercourse, all of it. Nothing worked. IVF was the next step. The first round cost $15,000. Insurance covered none of it. Tyler didn't know she was calling me. "You're the only one who understands," she said. "Mom can't help. She's on a fixed income. And Tyler thinks we should wait. But I can't wait, Jody. Every month that goes by, my chances get worse. Please. I'll pay you back. I transferred the money the next morning. My savings account went from $17,200 to $2,200 in a single transaction. I didn't tell Noah, who I'd been dating for 6 months. I didn't tell my mother. I didn't ask Kylie to sign a promissory note or write an IOU on a napkin because she was my sister and she was hurting, and that was reason enough. She never paid me back. Not a dollar. I kept her secret. All of them. Through 4 rounds of IVF, though I only learned about rounds 3 and 4 much later. Through the hormone shots that made her rage and weep in the same sentence. Through the pregnancy tests that came back negative like clockwork. Through the fights with Tyler she'd call me about at 1 in the morning while I had a 6 a.m. shift. Through everything. And then, 2 years in, Kylie told me she and Tyler had stopped trying. "We're done," she said. "I can't do it anymore." I believed her. I held her. I told her she was brave. She wasn't done. She'd done 2 more rounds behind everyone's back. Rounds 3 and 4. Burning through $28,000 of the joint savings she and Tyler shared. He didn't know until a bank statement showed up with a balance that should have been 5 figures and was now 3. Tyler threw her out. 4 months before my son was born, Kylie showed up at my door at 11 p.m. with a duffel bag and mascara streaked down her chin. Noah was home. I was 7 months pregnant. My back ached, and I had court-ordered rest from my OB because my blood pressure was running high. I let her in without a question. She stayed 3 days. During those 3 days, I watched my sister watch me. That's the only way I can describe it. She sat on our couch, and she watched. She watched Noah cook dinner while I rested with my feet up. She watched him kiss my belly on his way to the fridge. She watched us laugh at a rerun of something stupid. She watched the way he draped a blanket over my legs without me asking. She watched all of it with an expression I couldn't name at the time. I can name it now. It was inventory. On the second day, I found her standing in the nursery we'd just finished painting. Soft gray walls, a white crib, a mobile with little felt birds Noah had ordered custom because our last name is Bird. She was touching the crib rail, running her fingers along the edge. She didn't hear me come in, or maybe she did, and didn't care. "It's perfect," she said. Her voice was flat. "We can help you set yours up," I said. "When you're ready." She didn't answer. On the 3rd day, I called Tyler for her. I spent 40 minutes on the phone talking him down, explaining that Kylie was desperate, not deceitful, that the money was about wanting a baby so badly she couldn't see straight. He calmed down. She went home. Before she left, she hugged me in the doorway. Tight. Too tight for a pregnant woman, but I didn't say anything. "I don't know what I'd do without you," she said into my shoulder. I hugged her back. "You don't have to find out." What I didn't know, what I had no possible way of knowing, was that during those 3 days, Kylie had been collecting material, not evidence of anything real. Raw material, things she could reshape. Jody let Tyler stay at her house. Jody called Tyler privately. Jody gave Kylie money out of guilt. None of those things were true, but they were close enough to things that did happen that if you squinted, if you wanted to believe them, they would sound real. And Kylie was counting on people wanting to believe them. The shift started small, so small I almost missed it. I called my mother to tell her the baby was a boy. I was 5 months along, giddy, holding the ultrasound photo like a winning lottery ticket. Christine picked up on the 4th ring. "Mom, it's a boy." Pause. A long one. "That's nice. That's nice." Like I'd told her, I found a parking spot. She changed the subject to Kylie's job search. Kylie had lost her office manager position 8 months prior and was still unemployed. And when I tried to steer back to the baby, she said she had something on the stove and hung up. I sat on the couch holding the ultrasound and tried to figure out what was wrong. 2 weeks later, she called me, but her voice was different. Careful. like she was reading from a script she'd been practicing. "Jody, are you happy?" A pause. "With your life? With Noah?" I almost laughed. "Yeah, Mom. I'm about to have a baby. Things are good." 3 seconds of silence. I counted them. "We'll talk after the baby," she said, and hung up. I replayed that call a dozen times in my head over the next few days. The way she said Noah's name, not warmly, not neutrally, but like she was tasting something sour. The way she said, "We'll talk," like a warning, not a promise. Something had changed behind her voice and I couldn't name it. I told myself she was tired, stressed about Kylie, worried about money. I told myself everything except the truth. The truth was that 2 weeks before that phone call, my sister had sent my mother 6 screenshots of text messages between Jody and Tyler. Messages that said things like, "I miss you," and "Last night was incredible," and "Don't tell Kylie." Messages I never wrote. Messages that never existed on any phone I've ever owned. My mother read those messages, looked at those screenshots on her phone, and made a decision. She didn't call me. She didn't ask if they were real. She didn't say, "Jody, I need to talk to you about something your sister showed me." She just decided I was guilty. And for the next 2 months, she carried that verdict in silence. The baby shower confirmed what I couldn't yet see. My mother hosted it at her house, the old ranch on Murfreesboro Pike, with the screened porch and the yard that slopes toward the creek. I drove over on a Saturday morning, dressed in a blue maternity top I'd bought special for the occasion, carrying a pan of the pimento cheese dip my Aunt Donna always requested. Noah dropped me off and went to run errands. He'd come back in 2 hours. I walked up the porch steps expecting the usual. Aunt Donna meeting me at the door with open arms, Aunt Brenda arranging flowers on the table, my mother's church friends setting out paper plates and arguing about whether sweet tea needs more sugar. That familiar, slightly chaotic warmth that makes family gatherings feel like family. Instead, I walked into a room that felt like a funeral where nobody had told me who died. Aunt Donna, my mother's older sister, 63, church secretary at First Baptist for 20 years, the woman who'd braided my hair at every Thanksgiving until I was 14, was standing by the kitchen island. She saw me and didn't move. No hug. No, "Look at you, honey." Just a nod. Tight lips. Arms folded across her chest like she was protecting herself from contamination. "You look well," she said. The way you'd say it to an acquaintance at a gas station. Aunt Brenda was worse. She made eye contact from across the living room, held it for one uncomfortable second, long enough for me to see something in her face that looked like disgust, then looked away. She spent the rest of the shower in the kitchen with my mother's 2 church friends, Kathy and Louise, a tight cluster of whispers and meaningful glances that stopped dead every time I walked within earshot. I moved through my own baby shower like a tourist in a museum where all the exhibits were about me and none of the plaques were in a language I could read. Every conversation felt scripted. Every congratulations was delivered with a half-second delay, like they were checking with themselves before saying it. Gifts were handed to me without the usual commentary. No, "I saw this and just had to get it." No, open it, open it." Just, "Here. Take it. Next." I tried to engage Donna in conversation about the nursery. She answered in single sentences. I asked Brenda if she'd tried the dip. She said she wasn't hungry. My mother moved through the room like a hostess at a wake. Efficient, smiling, never stopping long enough for me to corner her. Then I heard it. I was standing by the back window, holding a cup of sweet tea, half listening to Kathy and Louise discuss something about a church potluck. Donna was behind the dessert table with Brenda, and she must not have known I was close enough to hear, because her voice carried clear across the room. And she just acts like nothing happened, sitting there opening presents like she didn't. You know. Brenda murmured something I couldn't catch. I turned around. What do you mean? Acts like what? Donna's whole body stiffened. She put on a smile so fast it looked like she'd pulled it from a drawer. Nothing, sweetie, just gabbing. You know how we get. I looked at Brenda. Brenda studied the floor. I let it go. I shouldn't have. But I was 8 months pregnant and my feet hurt, and I'd been gaslit my entire life into believing that questioning things made me the problem. So I told myself Donna was being Donna. She gossiped about everyone, she always had. And I finished my tea and I opened my gifts, and I drove home with a car full of onesies and a stomach full of dread I couldn't explain. Acts like nothing happened. What happened? What did everyone at that party think had happened? It would take a hospital bed, a forged document, and 6 fabricated text messages before I understood. Everyone at that shower already knew the story my sister had written about me. The affair that never happened. The betrayal that never occurred. The version of Jody that Kylie had invented and distributed like a press release to every person who mattered in my life. And not one of them asked me if it was true. The last month of my pregnancy was the loneliest. My mother's calls dwindled to 1 a week, then every other week. They lasted 3 minutes. She asked if I was eating. I said yes. She asked if Noah was treating me well, and the way she asked, the slight emphasis on, well, made my skin crawl without knowing why. I said yes. She said good. Silence. Goodbye. Kylie stopped texting entirely. No check-ins, no, how's the baby? Nothing. After months of her showing up to every appointment, buying expensive onesies, texting me ultrasound heart emojis, nothing. Like a switch had been flipped. I called my mother one last time, a week before my due date. Mom, are we okay? I feel like something's wrong and nobody's telling me what. 3 seconds of silence. We'll talk after the baby, Jody. She was waiting. They were all waiting. For the exact moment I'd be too weak to fight back. Labor came on a Tuesday morning. Emergency C-section. The baby's heart rate dropped during contractions and they couldn't wait. Noah kissed my forehead in the hallway outside the OR. I'll be right here, he said. Right here. I counted backward from 10. Made it to 6. When I woke up, the room was dim and wrong. My legs were dead weight. My throat burned from the intubation tube. My vision swam. I blinked until the shapes became people. 2 people. My sister, standing at my bedside holding a manila folder. My mother, sitting in a plastic chair in the corner, arms crossed, staring at the floor. And the bassinet, my son's bassinet, being pushed toward the door by a nurse I didn't recognize. This baby isn't yours anymore, Kylie said. We're taking him home. Her voice didn't sound angry. That's what confused me through the haze of anesthesia. She sounded hurt, righteous, like she was doing something painful but necessary. A duty. I tried to sit up. Agony ripped through my abdomen. I grabbed the bed rail. What are you talking about? Emergency temporary guardianship. Kylie held up the folder like a badge. Filed 2 hours ago while you were under. I'm listed as guardian. Mom signed as supporting witness. She looked at the nurse. You can keep going. I turned my head toward the corner. Mom? Christine didn't move, didn't uncross her arms. Mom, look at me. She looked up. Her eyes were red, not from grief, from conviction. You brought this on yourself, Jody. The words hit my chest like a defibrillator. Brought what? Being unconscious? Having a C-section? What could I possibly have done to deserve my son being wheeled out of my room 6 hours after I gave birth to him? I opened my mouth. Nothing came out. The nurse was at the door. Bassinet half in the hallway. Kylie nodded at her again. The nurse hesitated, looked at me, looked at Kylie, and kept pushing. Then the door swung open from the outside. Noah came first. face flushed, jaw tight, moving fast. Behind him, Sean Calloway, 43, 6'2", gray suit, leather briefcase. Sean had been Noah's best friend since 10th grade at Hillsborough High, and our family lawyer since we got married. Noah had called him from the waiting room 20 minutes earlier, after a nurse told him the family had requested no visitors for the patient at this time. Noah knew that requests didn't come from me. Sean stepped in front of the bassinet, set his hand on the rail, looked the nurse dead in the eye. "This child is not leaving this room. Step back." The nurse stepped back. Sean turned to Kylie. His voice was the kind of calm that comes from depositions and courtroom cross-examinations, the kind that doesn't rise because it doesn't need to. "Before you take that baby anywhere," he said, "I'd like you to read the name listed as father on page 1 of that guardianship petition." Kylie didn't move. Her fingers tightened on the manila folder until her knuckles went white. She didn't look down at the paper. She already knew. Sean took the folder from her hands. She released it like it was burning, and opened it to the first page. He read the name out loud. Tyler Mercer. The room went silent. Not quiet. Silent. The kind of silence that has weight. Noah looked at the paper. Looked at Kylie. "That's your husband." His voice was low, controlled. Barely. "Why is your husband listed as the father of my son?" I heard the name echo in my skull. Tyler Mercer, my brother-in-law, the man I'd spent 40 minutes on the phone convincing to take Kylie back. The man I'd never been alone with in my entire life. And then the pieces locked. She told them I slept with Tyler. I looked at my mother. Christine's face hadn't changed when Sean read the name. No shock. No confusion. She'd known. She'd known before she walked into this room. "Mom." My voice was a rasp. "How long have you believed this?" Christine met my eyes. For the first time that day, she looked directly at me. 2 months. 2 months. 60 days. My own mother believed I slept with my sister's husband for 2 months and never asked me if it was true. Never called, never texted, never sat me down and said, "Jody, I need you to tell me the truth." She just decided. My own mother believed I slept with my sister's husband. For 2 months. She never asked me. Not once. "If your mother did this to you, tell me. I need to know I'm not the only one." Christine handed me her phone with shaking hands. She'd been carrying those screenshots for 8 weeks like a wound she couldn't stop touching. I looked at them. 6 screenshots of text messages. A conversation between Jody and Tyler in iMessage format. Blue and gray bubbles, timestamps, read receipts. Everything looked authentic. "I miss you. Last night was incredible. She doesn't know you stayed at our place. I gave you that money because I felt guilty. Don't tell Kylie. I called him because I miss hearing his voice." I read them 3 times. My hands were steady. 8 years in an emergency room teaches you to hold still when the world is shaking, to read the information first and react second. So I read them like a chart, clinically, and I noticed things. Then I opened my own phone, went to messages, searched Tyler Mercer. 0 results. I turned my phone toward Sean, toward my mother, toward the room. "I don't have Tyler's number saved. I have never texted Tyler Mercer, not once in my life." Kylie laughed. One sharp, ugly sound. "Of course you deleted them." "Kylie." I kept my voice flat. Steady. "Look at me. I have never touched your husband." "Liar!" The word cracked out of her like a gunshot. She spun to Christine. "Show her, Mom. Show her what I showed you." Christine held the screenshots toward Noah. Noah looked. 3 seconds. The longest 3 seconds of my life. His face went blank. Not because he doubted me, but because the screenshots were good. Professional looking. The format matched real iMessage perfectly. Blue bubbles, Gray bubbles, timestamps, delivered receipts. If you didn't know better, you'd believe them. Kylie saw his pause. See? She said, voice climbing toward triumph. Even your own husband doesn't know what to say. Noah looked up from the phone, looked at me. His face hardened. Not at me. At them. These aren't real, he said. I don't know what they are, but they're not real. But I could see the truth on my mother's face. She'd lived with those screenshots for 2 months. She'd studied them, cried over them, shown them to her sisters, taken them to her pastor. Telling her they were fake was like telling her a photograph was painted. She'd made them part of her reality. Words wouldn't work. I needed evidence. I turned to Sean. Can you verify whether those screenshots are authentic? Sean was already holding out his hand. Mrs. Dawson, I need the original image files forwarded to my email, not screenshots of screenshots, the original files from when your daughter sent them to you. Christine looked at Kylie. Kylie said nothing. Christine forwarded them. Sean opened his laptop on the hospital bed tray and pulled up the file properties. In civil litigation, he'd examined digital evidence dozens of times, forged signatures, doctored emails, manipulated photos. This was his territory. The metadata on these image files, he said, reading his screen, identifies the capture device as Kylie's iPhone 14 Pro. He looked at me. What phone do you use? Samsung Galaxy S23. These screenshots were not captured from your phone. They were created on Kylie's device. Kylie shook her head. That doesn't prove anything. I screenshot the messages she sent me. My phone's name shows up because my phone took the screenshot. She said it smoothly. Rehearsed. Sean didn't blink. That would be partially true for a standard screenshot of a received message, but these files have additional inconsistencies. The creation timestamps on all 6 images fall within a 14-minute window, meaning they were all produced in a single sitting, not captured from a conversation that spanned weeks. And the internal timestamps inside the messages don't match the image creation dates. Christine frowned. I don't understand. In simple terms, Sean said, these weren't captured from a real conversation over time. They were manufactured, all at once, in one session. The room shifted. Not dramatically, not the way it does in movies where everyone gasps. It was subtler. Christine uncrossed her arms. Donna, who had arrived minutes earlier and was leaning against the doorframe, pulled out her own phone and stared at the screenshots she'd received 2 months ago with new eyes. The head nurse pulled out a clipboard and started writing. Kylie was watching all of this. I could see the machinery behind her face, the gears turning, running through responses, discarding the ones that wouldn't hold. She'd been good at this her whole life, reading rooms, adjusting stories, knowing exactly when to cry and when to fight. But for the first time, I could see through it. The desperation underneath the performance. I want to check one more thing, I said. I asked Sean to help me pull up my phone carrier records, the network-level text log that shows every outbound and inbound message by phone number. You can delete texts from your phone. You can't delete them from AT&T's servers. We logged in on Sean's laptop, pulled 6 months of records. Tyler Mercer's number did not appear. Not once. Not a single text sent or received in any direction at any time. The carrier records confirmed what I already knew, but now it was confirmed at the infrastructure level. The kind of evidence you can't fake, can't delete, can't app your way around. I turned the screen toward Christine. Every text I've sent or received for the last 6 months. Tyler's number isn't there. It was never there. Christine stared at the screen. Her mouth opened. Closed. She looked at Kylie. Kylie said nothing. I looked at those screenshots one more time. Not at the format. At the content. At the specific words my sister had chosen for fake me to say. At the specific words Kylie had chosen for fake Jody to say. I gave you that money because I felt guilty. There it was. The $15,000. The money I'd given Kylie for her first IVF round. Money I gave because I loved her. Kylie had twisted it into a confession. Fake me admitting guilt over an affair. She doesn't know you stayed at our place. The 3 days. Kylie had flipped it completely. It wasn't Kylie who stayed at my place when Tyler threw her out. Now it was Tyler who'd secretly stayed at mine. I called him because I miss hearing his voice. The phone call. The 40-minute call I made to Tyler to save Kylie's marriage. She'd turned it into a love call. Every kindness. Every sacrifice. Every time I dropped my own life to catch her, she'd taken it, rotated it exactly 180 degrees, and presented it as evidence of betrayal. She didn't just lie. She weaponized my love. She turned the proof of my loyalty into proof of my guilt. I gave her $15,000. She made it guilt money. I let her into my home. She made it a rendezvous. I saved her marriage. She made it a secret affair. I spent 6 years helping her. She spent 3 months turning every act of kindness into a blade. But the screenshots weren't the worst part. Christine said it quietly, almost to herself, like the confession had been pressing against her teeth for weeks. She didn't just show me. I looked at her. What do you mean? She sent them to Donna, to Brenda, to 2 women from my Bible study group, to Pastor Reynolds. Christine's voice cracked on the pastor's name. She called Donna crying. She called Brenda sobbing. She told everyone, that her own sister had been sleeping with her husband. I felt the floor tilt. How many people, Mom? Christine pressed her hands together. Maybe 15. 15. 15 people in my life, my aunts, my mother's closest friends, my pastor, believed I was the kind of woman who would sleep with her sister's husband. For 2 months. They'd sat at my baby shower, eaten food off my table, touched my belly, handed me gifts wrapped in pastel paper. And the whole time, they were looking at me the way you look at a car accident. Noah was standing by the window. His hands were trembling, not from doubt, from rage he was barely containing. 15 people think my wife had an affair, he said, for 2 months, and not a single one of them asked her. He turned to Christine. His voice dropped. You're her mother. Christine didn't have an answer. She didn't try to find one. I wasn't looking at my mother anymore. I was looking at Kylie. She was standing in the corner of the room, back against the wall, face unreadable. You didn't just file guardianship papers, I said. You poisoned my entire world first. Every person who could have defended me, you got to them before I even knew I needed defending. Kylie said nothing. Sean stepped forward. Kylie, I need to see your phone. No. Noah moved between Kylie and the door. Show the phone, he said, or I call Nashville PD and let them ask. Kylie looked at Christine for backup. Christine looked at the floor. Kylie handed over the phone. Sean found it in under 2 minutes. A hidden folder inside the Photos app, nested behind 3 dummy albums. Inside, an app called Text Faker Pro. He held up the screen. This application generates fake iMessage conversations, he said. Customizable contact names, photos, timestamps, read receipts. The conversation stored inside this app matches the screenshots you distributed. Word for word. 12 messages, created in a single session 3 months ago. He set Kylie's phone on the bed tray next to the printouts. The app was still open. 12 messages I never wrote. An entire conversation that never happened. Built in a hidden folder on my sister's phone. Sean had called Tyler Mercer from the hallway. Tyler arrived 25 minutes later, still in his work polo, lanyard still around his neck, looking like he'd driven 90 the whole way. He stood in the doorway for a moment, breathing hard, taking in the room, the printouts on the tray, the phone on the bed, the faces. "What's going on?" he asked. Sean said it was urgent. Sean handed him the guardianship papers. Tyler read the first page. "I watched his face change the way you watch weather turn. The confusion first, then the dawning, then the color draining out of his skin like someone had pulled a plug. Why is my name on this?" His voice was barely audible. He looked at me. "Jody, I didn't." "I know," I said. "Keep reading." He turned to Kylie. She was pressed into the corner of the room, arms wrapped around herself. "You told me you were filing temporary guardianship because Jody was having postpartum complications," Tyler said. "You told me it was a medical precaution, a formality. You never said you put my name as the father." He held up the paper. "This says I'm the father of your sister's baby." "What the hell, Kylie?" Kylie didn't answer. She stared at a point on the floor between Tyler's shoes. Sean handed Tyler the phone. The fake text conversation was still on screen. Tyler read it. His lips moved with some of the words. When he got to, "Last night was incredible," he stopped reading. Set the phone down. Pressed both hands flat on the table. "I never sent these," he said. He was talking to the room, to everyone, to no one. "I don't text Jody. I've never. This conversation didn't happen. None of this happened." "I know," I said again. "It didn't." Tyler straightened up. He looked at Kylie, and the expression on his face was something I hope I never see directed at me by anyone I love. It wasn't anger. It was the death of something. The total, irreversible collapse of every assumption he'd ever made about the person he married. "You told 15 people I cheated on you," he said. "With your sister. You told our pastor. You told your aunts. You told your mother." Each sentence was a separate blow. "You put my name on a legal document claiming I fathered a baby I never fathered. And then you tried to use that document to take a child away from a woman who just got out of surgery." He paused. His voice dropped. "Who are you?" Kylie started crying. Tyler stood up. The chair shrieked against the linoleum. "I'm done, Kylie. I'm done." He walked out. She called his name. "Tyler, please. You don't understand." But he was already past the nurse's station. He didn't turn around. The sound of the stairwell door opening and closing echoed down the hall. And then she did what I'd watched her do my entire life. The thing that always worked. The thing that had saved her from every consequence she'd ever earned. The nuclear option. She dropped. Not a dramatic collapse. Something worse. Something practiced. Her knees buckled first, then her hands caught the floor, and then she was down, sitting on the cold hospital linoleum with her hair in her face and her shoulders shaking. And the sound she made. God, the sound. Not crying. Wailing. The kind of wailing that bypasses your brain and goes straight to your chest. "I can't have children," she sobbed. 6 years. 6 years. Do you know what that's like? 62 injections. 4 rounds of hormones that made me feel like I was losing my mind. Watching every friend, every cousin, every woman at church walk around with their bellies and their announcements and their gender reveals, while I sat in a parking lot crying after every negative test. She was gasping now. Snot and tears. Ugly, messy, raw. And she gets pregnant on the first try. On the first try. Like it costs her nothing, like it's easy, like she just decided and it happened. While I spent 6 years and every cent I had and my marriage and I still have nothing. Nothing. She looked up from the floor, looked right at me, eyes swollen, voice cracking. "I just wanted one chance to be a mother. One. I would have been a good mother." And I watched, with my son sleeping 2 feet away from me, as the room responded the way it had been conditioned to respond for 35 years. Aunt Donna, who had seen the metadata printout, who had heard Sean read the DNA results, who knew the texts were fabricated. She looked at Kylie on the floor and her face softened. Her hand went to her chest. The maternal reflex. Christine pushed herself up from the chair. She took a step toward Kylie. Not a deliberate step, an automatic one. The way your body moves toward a fire alarm before your brain decides to evacuate. She'd been walking toward Kylie her entire life. The grooves were deeper than evidence. Even the nurse, a stranger, someone with no history, no conditioning, looked at Kylie with something close to sympathy. Because infertility is real. That pain is real. And Kylie knew it. She'd always known how to make her real pain do the work of covering her fake ones. I watched it happen. The pull, the gravity. The room tilting 35 degrees toward my sister despite everything on that table. The metadata, the app, the carrier records, the DNA. Tyler walking out. Despite all of it. And something inside me went very quiet. Not cold, not numb, quiet. Like a decision being made in a room where the lights have just come on. I looked at my son. He was asleep, lips slightly parted, one hand curled against his cheek. He had no idea. He'd never know about this room, these people, this day. Not if I had anything to say about it. I looked at Sean. He met my eyes and nodded slightly. Not a suggestion, just acknowledgement. He'd do whatever I asked next. I looked at my mother, frozen mid-step between her chair and her oldest daughter on the floor, and I realized something I should have understood years ago. I was never going to win the competition for my mother's heart. There was no amount of evidence, no stack of printouts, no DNA test that would make Christine choose me over Kylie. That race was rigged before I was born. But I didn't need to win it. I didn't need them to choose me. I just needed the truth to be so loud, so undeniable, so permanent that whatever they chose afterward would be a choice they'd have to carry for the rest of their lives. Sean, I said, read the DNA results. Sean placed the paternity test on the table. He read it clearly, the way you read something into a court record. Noah Bird. Probability of paternity, 99.99%. Tyler Mercer, excluded. He looked at Kylie. There was no affair. There was never an affair. There was only an app on your phone and a story you told to 15 people who trusted you. Kylie stopped crying. She stood up. Slowly. The chair behind her was already on the floor. She looked around the room at each face and found no rescue. Then she screamed it. So what? So what if I made them up? She still has everything I don't. The husband, the baby, the life that was supposed to be mine. I spent 6 years trying to be a mother and she gets it. Like it's nothing. Like it costs her nothing. She was crying. Real tears now, not the performance kind. The raw, ugly, snot and shaking kind. Nobody moved toward her. Christine didn't stand. Donna didn't reach. The nurse looked away. For the first time in Kylie's life, the tears didn't work. The room had heard too much. I waited. I let the silence fill every corner. Then I spoke. I gave you $15,000, I said. My entire savings account. I kept your secret for 6 years. From Tyler. From Mom. From everyone. I let you into my home when your own husband couldn't stand to look at you. I held you after every failed round. I called Tyler and begged him to take you back. I lied for you. I sacrificed for you. I showed up for you every single time you called. I paused. And you repaid me by making 15 people believe I'm a whore. The word hit the room like a slap. I'm not a whore, Kylie. I'm your sister. The one who never stopped showing up. Every midnight call. Every crisis. Every dollar you needed and never paid back. I was there. Every single time. I let the words land. And this is what you did with that. Sean cleared his throat. The guardianship petition is being withdrawn immediately. If it's contested, I'll pursue fraud charges based on fabricated digital evidence and falsified medical history. Kylie told hospital staff that Jody had a history of postpartum complications to expedite the guardianship. Jody has no such history. This is her first pregnancy. The head nurse, who had been standing by the door, nodded. The file has been corrected. Hospital administration has been notified. Christine stood up. She took one step toward me. I held up my hand. Don't. Not right now. She stopped. I looked at the nurse. Bring him to me. The nurse wheeled the bassinet to my bedside. I reached down and picked up my son. Carefully, because my stitches pulled, because my arms were still weak, because everything hurt. He was warm, impossibly light. His fingers curled around my thumb and his eyes were closed, and he had no idea what had just happened in this room. I held him against my chest and closed my eyes. His heartbeat was fast and tiny against mine. For the first time since I'd woken up in that bed, the room belonged to me. 2 hours later, the hallway was quiet. Noah had gone to bring the car around. Sean was downstairs filing paperwork. Kylie was gone. I didn't know where, and I didn't ask. Tyler had left. Donna and Brenda had driven home without saying goodbye. My mother knocked. I told her to come in. She sat in the plastic chair next to my bed. The same chair she'd been sitting in when she refused to look at me. She looked 10 years older than she had that morning. I should have asked you, she said. Yes. Silence, long enough to hear the monitor beeping down the hall. She showed me those texts and Christine pressed her knuckles against her mouth. I just saw red. My daughter and my son-in-law. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. And she was crying and she sounded so broken. And I just believed her. Over me. For 2 months. Christine's eyes filled. I'm sorry, Jody. I am so sorry. I studied her face. My mother. The woman who forgot my 16th birthday. The woman who called Kylie her heart and called me her easy one. The woman who sat in a church pew for 8 Sundays while people whispered about her younger daughter. And never once stood up and said, wait. I know you're sorry, I said. But sorry doesn't undo 2 months of silence. You didn't call me, you didn't text me, you didn't sit me down and ask. You sat in that church and let people call me a homewrecker and you said nothing. I was ashamed. Of me. You were ashamed of me. For something I didn't do. She didn't argue. You chose her, Mom. You always choose her. And this time, you chose her lie over my entire life. Christine stood, walked to the door. Her hand was on the frame when I spoke again. Mom. She stopped. You had 2 months to ask me. You didn't. She nodded. She walked out. I let her go. Tyler filed for divorce the following week. He texted me once, 5 days after everything. I had no idea about any of it. I'm sorry for what she did to you and Noah. If you ever need anything for the legal side, I'll testify. I wrote back. Thank you, Tyler. Take care of yourself. We haven't spoken since. Some relationships don't need a long goodbye. They just need one honest moment. Donna called 3 days after we left the hospital. She cried for 10 minutes before she could get a full sentence out. When she finally did, it was, I stood behind a dessert table and said your name like it was something dirty. At your own baby shower, while you were carrying your first child. I listened. I didn't interrupt. She said she should have questioned it, should have come to me directly, should have been the aunt who picked up the phone and said, I need to hear your side. Instead, she'd been the aunt who whispered. I told her I appreciated the call. I told her it meant something. I didn't invite her to the house. Brenda sent a long text message the following week. 3 paragraphs of apology, full of, I should have known, and I'm ashamed of myself. I read it twice, sat with it for 2 weeks, then wrote back 7 words. Thank you for saying that, it helps. Nothing more, nothing less. My mother's 2 church friends, Kathy and Louise, women I'd known since Sunday school, never contacted me. Not a call, not a text, not a card. I don't know if they believe the truth, or if they'd rather keep the version that's more interesting, the version where I'm the villain because that's a better story than admitting they were fooled. I thought about reaching out. Then I didn't. Some silences tell you everything. Pastor Reynolds called Noah the week after. He apologized to both of us. Formally, the way pastors do, with scripture references and a tone that straddled guilt and authority. He said he'd spoken with Kylie privately. I didn't ask what was said. What matters to me is that the truth is in his office now, sitting in a folder somewhere between the marriage certificates and the prayer requests. Christine calls every Sunday morning at 9:15. I pick up. The conversations last about 4 minutes. She asks about the baby, his weight, his sleeping schedule, whether he's smiling yet, whether he's hit any milestones. I give her facts. Weight: 9 pounds 6 ounces at his last checkup. Sleeping: 4-hour stretches on a good night. Smiling: yes, at 3 weeks, though Noah says it was gas. She laughs when I tell her that. A real laugh. Small, but real. She doesn't push for more. I don't offer any. We exist in a narrow corridor between broken and beginning, and most days I can't tell which direction we're walking. Sometimes her voice cracks at the end of a call, and she says, "I love you, Jody," and I say, "I know, Mom," and we both know that's not the same as saying it back. I told her she can be in my son's life, but she will never be alone with him. Not until I decide otherwise. Not a discussion, not a negotiation. She agreed without a word. Maybe that's growth. Maybe it's just the sound of someone who knows they've used up every second chance they had. 3 weeks after everything, Kylie sent me a text. 4 words. Can we talk? I stared at it for a long time, set the phone face down on the counter, walked to the living room where my son was sleeping in his bassinet, picked him up. He did that boneless baby thing where his whole body melts against your chest and his breathing syncs with yours, and the world shrinks to just the 2 of you. I held him there, my chin on his head, and I thought about Kylie. Not about what she did, about who she was before she did it. The sister who called me crying at midnight. The sister who hugged me in the doorway and said, "I don't know what I'd do without you." The sister who touched the crib rail in my nursery and said, "It's perfect," in a voice that was either admiration or prelude. I'll never know which one. I picked up the phone and typed, "I don't hate you, Kylie, but I can't trust you. And I won't let my son grow up thinking what you did was love." She didn't respond. I turned off the phone, put it in the kitchen drawer, went back to the couch, and held my boy. If someone in your family ever made you prove you weren't the villain, when they were the ones holding the script the entire time, I want you to know, you didn't deserve that. None of us did. It's been 2 months now. My son sleeps on my chest most evenings. We have a routine: bath at 7, bottle at 7:30, then the couch, where I lean back and he settles against me like he was designed to fit there. Noah reads next to us, always within arm's reach, always with one hand resting on the baby's back, like he's reminding himself we're both still here. Sometimes he reads out loud, sports scores, article headlines, random facts about birds because he thinks it's funny given our last name. The baby doesn't care. He just sleeps. The house is quiet. Not the lonely kind. The kind you earn by surviving something loud. My phone buzzes sometimes. A text from Christine. "I miss you both." I read it. Sometimes I respond that night. A photo of the baby. A single sentence. Sometimes I wait a day. She doesn't push. I think she's learning. Slowly, painfully, the way you learn to walk again after breaking both legs. What it means to earn someone's trust back after you threw it away without even checking if it was real first. I don't know if she'll get there, but she's trying. That counts for something? Not enough yet, but something. I think about Kylie sometimes, not with anger anymore. Anger is clean, and what I feel isn't clean. It's something heavier. Something that sits in my chest like a stone I can't cough up and don't want to swallow. Grief, maybe. Not for what she did, but for what we were before she did it. For the sister who called me at midnight. For the woman who hugged me in that doorway and said, "I don't know what I'd do without you." And might have meant it. Really meant it. In that specific moment, before the jealousy ate through whatever was left of her, before she went home and opened that app and started building a version of me that deserved to lose everything. She's in an apartment now. Tyler paid the deposit before he left because he's decent like that. I don't know what she does with her days. I don't ask. I hope she gets help. I mean that. But I won't be the one to give it to her. Not anymore. I used to think being the easy one meant I was strong, that not needing anything made me powerful. But that's not what it was. It was permission. Permission for everyone around me to take without asking, to lean without checking, to assume I'd still be standing when they were done. I'm not the easy one anymore. Noah looked up from his book. You okay? My son shifted against my chest. Tiny fingers curled around the collar of my shirt. Warm skin. New baby smell. Mine. Yeah, I said. I'm okay. I spent my whole life being the one who showed up. The one who gave. The one who held it together so everyone else could fall apart. And the one time I needed them to show up for me. The one time I was lying in a hospital bed. Unable to move. Unable to speak. Unable to protect my own child. They tried to wheel my son out of the room. But here's what I know now. The people who call you the strong one are sometimes just looking for someone they can take from without feeling guilty. And the ones who say, I would do anything for family, sometimes they mean your family, not theirs. I don't need them to choose me anymore. I just needed to stop choosing to be the one who loses.